regular monthly meeting for the month of May, and we will ask Melinda to do the roll call this morning.
Here.
Dr. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Flanagan.
Here.
Ms. Maddox.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Dr. Stanbaugh.
Here.
And Mr. Zaker.
Here.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda that has been sent to you about a week in advance. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda for today. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Now, at this time, we'll welcome our visitors, our staff, and the press this morning. Appreciate you coming to be with us today. And at this time, we'll ask Dr. Duvall to do the invocation and Mrs. Flanagan to do the pledge.
Heavenly Father, we come to you with thanks this morning for this new day, the gift of life itself, the most precious gift. We give you also thanks for the beauty, the example of your work as we enjoy this wonderful time of year. We ask you this morning to go with this group as we go about the work of the students and the staff and all of those who share a common interest in the success of the Henry County school system. May our thoughts this morning, our discussions, and finally the actions we take always be geared toward the very best situation, again, for students, staff, and our school community. Bless us now as we go through the remainder of this morning's meeting. We ask in thy precious name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have any speakers this morning, and so we'll move to section 3, awards and recognition.
Good morning. Each May, we have the privilege of honoring two very important groups in our schools. This morning, Ms. Maddox is going to read for you a certificate of appreciation for our school nurses. School Nurse Day was officially yesterday, but we are celebrating them this week.
Whereas children are the future, and by being in them today, we are ensuring our world for tomorrow. And whereas all students have a right to have their health needs safely met while in school, and whereas children today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in school, and whereas school nurses have served as a critical role in improving public health and ensuring students' academic success for more than 100 years. And whereas school nurses are professional nurses that advance the well-being, academic success, and the lifelong achievements of all students by serving on the front lines and providing a critical safety net for our nation's most fragile children. And whereas school nurses act as a liaison to the school community, parents, and healthcare providers on behalf of children's health by promoting wellness and improving health outcomes for our nation's children. And whereas school nurses support the health and educational success of children and youth by providing access to care when children's cognitive development is at a peak. And whereas school nurses are members of school board mental health teams, and whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make a positive difference for children every day, the National Association of School Nurses and the Virginia Department of Education celebrate and acknowledge the accomplishments of school nurses everywhere and their efforts in meeting the needs of today's students by improving the delivery of health care in our schools, and offers gratitude for the nation's school nurses who contribute to our local communities by helping students stay healthy at school and ready to learn, and keeping parents and guardians at work, not just on National School Nurse Day, but at every opportunity throughout the year.
And this morning, our school nurses are very busy ensuring the health and well-being of our students. So we would like to recognize them by sharing their photo with you. And their school nurse coordinator, Ms. Sherry Vestal, is going to come forward to accept the certificate of recognition. The school nurses at each school are: at Axton Elementary, Cindy Martin; at Bassett High School, Sharon Hooker; at Campbell Court Elementary, Judy Hairston; at Collinsville Primary, Melissa Stable; at Drury Mason, Jessica James; at FC Middle School, Kimberly Branscombe; at GW Carver Elementary, Donna Harefield. Tommy Steer is the nurse at John Road Smith Elementary. Kimberly Edwards is at Laurel Park. At Magna Vista, Lisa Gardner is the school nurse. Melissa Potter is the nurse at Mount Olivet. Hope Peters is the nurse at Rich Acres. Donna James is at Sandville, and Jerry Cruz is at Stanleytown. Additionally, Rebecca Harrison works from Stanleytown, and we have a district substitute nurse who works for all of our schools on a regular basis, and her name is Stephanie Knapp, and we're very excited to honor each of them today. Additionally, we couldn't do what we do without the next group of people that we're going to recognize, and clearly they could not be with us today because they are busy at their talent. They are teaching our students. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and Reverend Alker has a certificate of recognition to share with us for that.
Whereas teacher quality is widely acknowledged as the single most important factor influencing student learning and achievement. And whereas Virginia teachers, while presenting the rigorous content of the standards of learning and local curricula, challenge students to apply what they learn through critical thinking and problem solving. And whereas Virginia teachers prepare students for success in the new Virginia economy through the integration of technology and instruction, and through the development of 21st century skills, including collaboration and creativity. And whereas Virginia teachers strive to instill within their students a lifelong love of learning and discovery, and whereas Virginia teachers encourage students to achieve their goals by recognizing that every student has unique strengths and needs, and whereas Virginia teachers, through their service as mentors, coaches, and club sponsors, model good citizenship and encourage students to contribute to the well-being of the communities, and whereas the commitment of Virginia teachers to academic excellence and college and career readiness is reflected in annual increases in student performance on state and national assessments, and whereas Virginia teachers directly assist the State Board of Education and the Department of Education in periodic revisions of the standards of learning by serving on review committees and in other capacities, and whereas this year, the week of May the 4th through the 8th, is set aside as National Teacher Appreciation Week for the purpose of recognizing teachers, both individually and collectively. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education extends its sincere gratitude to all Virginia teachers.
I think they're not resolutions, they're acknowledgments this morning. Thank you very much. We'll now move into the information
members of the board. We are recommending policy revisions that we are proposing to you at this meeting. The proposed policy revisions reflect efforts to bring policies into compliance with new or existing laws and regulations, or they've been revised for editorial reasons. The policies can be found on board docs under the featured tab Policies Under Consideration. There are a number of policies to review, but I will provide you with a brief summary of the major changes. The following policy changes have been prompted by the amendment or enactment of Virginia Code or federal regulations. Policy BBFA, Conflict of Interests and Disclosure of Economic Interests. The title of this policy has been changed to reflect that some parts apply to school board employees as well as to school board members. The policy has also been updated to require that school board members must now file disclosure statements semi-annually rather than just annually. Policy BDA, Regular School Board Meetings, includes clarification that nothing prohibits separately contacting board members for the purpose of ascertaining their position on public business, provided that such contact does not constitute a meeting under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Policy CLA, Reporting Acts of Violence and Substance Abuse. Policy JFC, Student Conduct. Regulation JFC-R, Standards of Student Conduct. Policy JFCF, Drugs in School. And policies JGD and JGE, Student Suspension and Expulsion, as well as KNAJ, Relations with Law Enforcement Authorities, replace references to synthetic cannabinoids with the term synthetic substances when referring to drugs. Policy FFA, Naming School Facilities. This policy has been updated to clarify that rules applying to naming schools also apply to naming school facilities. Policy or Regulation GBM-R, Procedure for Adjusting Grievances for Professional Staff. This regulation has been temporarily revised until the State Board of Education adopts revised regulations in accordance with amendments made to Virginia Code 22.1-306, both in July of 2013 and July of 2014, but we are still awaiting their proposed regulations. The other policy revisions submitted reflect editorial changes and or updates to just legal references or cross-references. Revisions have been verified for legality by the Virginia School Boards Association or by legal counsel, and they will be presented to the board for approval at the next meeting on June 4th, 2015. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the policy revisions on first read.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the policy changes as presented to us this morning on first reading, realizing that we will see them for final approval at the next meeting. All in favor, please raise your hand. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and you have been presented information about the minutes of meetings prior to today and for approval of bills and so forth. Are there any of these particular items that you would like to pull out to discuss separately? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please raise your hand. The first item on the action agenda today is the annual review of the crisis plan. I believe Sherry has that.
Good morning. This is actually Mrs. Carmela Shiley's presentation, but because of an illness, she's unable to attend today. We usually present the crisis manual, medical manual to you in August for a review, but we're coming early this year because the manual has changed and there are some new additions that have been placed in the manual, and we want to distribute the manual during during the summer at the administrative retreat to all the principals and assistant principals so that they would have a little extra time to familiarize themselves with the manual. This is the new cover of our crisis medical manual. We wanted to get our students involved, and Mr. Boone chose John Redd Elementary School to be the school that would have his students to draw and design a new manual. This was our winning choice because it has all of our outside agencies, including our school, involved. And all of the children who participated in submitting entries to be selected are going to be rewarded with an ice cream party on May the 15th, and I think Mrs. Hatchett is going to present them with a certificate or something to acknowledge their hard work and the great work that they've done. As with previous years, our manual consists of 4 different basics: preventing, preparing, responding, and recovering. The new sections in the manual are, the first one is threat assessment. This one is a requirement that's been outlined by the state, and so we have the state requirements in the new manual. The empowerment statement is what the division safety team believed that we needed to make sure that principals know that we support them in the decision that they make, whether they decide to do a lockdown, a shelter in place, if they decide that it's needed that they evacuate the building, or if there's no change at all. They need to know that, we're going to support the decision that they made if they make it, based on what they have been trained. The new incident accident notification protocol is now 3D personnel, so that you have 4 different categories. If there was an incident to happen at school, the principals will know the first person that they are to notify, and then if there's no answer, the next person and the next person. So it just kind of clarifies who they need to report to. There's a new employee mental health protocol that's outlined in the manual, as well as the incident loss form and the accident forms. They are not new, but they're new to the manual. We just put those in the manual so that it would be easier for principals to find those. The revised sections are, the first one is the missing student, and this is to clarify if a student willingly left supervision or if a child was actually in danger, and there's 2 references for those in that section. We also have the superintendent's safety directive that he wants everyone to know that safety is a top priority in Henry County Public Schools for all stakeholders. There's also a new section that's been, the section revised on terrorism. The color codes have been removed because they're no longer used by Homeland Security. We have support teams that are listed for different agencies or different items that are, if it's a psychological problem or whatever, there's the support teams that are listed. We also have a parent resource guide if there's a mental health service needed. And then for local bus accidents, we took the medical crisis manual and got with Mr. Fulcher with transportation and made sure that the manual that's given to the bus drivers, that it matches ours. And then there have been some changes on what bus drivers needed to do in the event of a tornado. And so those changes have been revised as well. The eliminated sections are the Phase 3 report. There's a state report that's due, and we just didn't want there to be duplication of reports for principals, so they're already doing one, and it was no use having this Phase 3 report. And then again, the color codes have been removed because of Homeland Security. We were very fortunate with the assistance with our manual, public safety, our local sheriff's department, 5 school principals, and our division safety team all looked through the manual and made different changes as well, and we're very pleased with the outcome of the manual. For training plans, we have already met once with all of our school principals and administrators and assistant principals regarding a full-scale bus accident drill, and we will continue to have mock drills and tabletops throughout the year so that we will eventually be able to have a full-scale mock drill regarding a bus accident. CPR and first aid are ongoing. We have several classes. 15 to 20 classes are held annually during the summer to have our personnel trained in CPR and first aid. During the administrative retreat, we're going to be having all of our administrators to be able to train together. There's going to be a half-day training just on the crisis medical manual. Threat assessment, train the trainer. Amy Scott, Carmela Shively, and I will be going to a DCJS training and bring back the information and train other staff members. And then the drill planning and improvement and legal aspects of school safety. Amy Scott, Carmela Shively, and our school resource officers will be going to that conference a little bit later. For emergency planning in non-traditional settings and community organizations using our schools, we are in the process of developing a training that's going to be mandatory for all agencies that use our buildings after school and on weekends. Are there any questions at all? And Mr. Scott and I'll be glad to try to answer your questions for you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I can just add, thank you for stepping in today. Don't go anywhere yet. I did want to say that I've been pleased with how the team has worked together this year. After every incident that occurs, we have a debriefing session, and we look at what we did well and where we need to improve, and then based on that feedback, we've made changes, throughout the year, which I think has been powerful. And Mrs. Vestal and Mrs. Shively have been working hard on that along with the rest of the team. But I also want to emphasize, with this being Nurses Week or Day, and I want to make sure you're aware of how much time Ms. Vestal puts in. I get text messages late into the evening and on the weekend when there are incidents with our students. She's getting in her car and going to the school to provide support and direction, and it's incredible how much she does for us, and I know that she also gets support from the rest of the safety team. So I just wanted to put in a plug for Mrs. Vestal, because sometimes it's very late at night when I get those text messages or phone calls, but it's important for you to know that she's always on, and the rest of your team, they jump in too, because several of you are copied on those text messages that I get as well. And what I'm so pleased to see is how well we work together, because we are focused on the safety of our students, and it doesn't matter what time it is or how long. And sometimes Mrs. Vestal follows the ambulance to the hospital and those kinds of things. So it's just important to emphasize how much I appreciate you, and I hope that, and I know the board does as well.
Thank you.
I thought it was interesting to see that you want to do some kind of training for outside groups that use our facilities. I don't think we've really done that. Is that how involved is that going to be?
It's going to be very involved, I think, but we're looking at Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, other organizations that use our facility, and the challenge was to find out who all these groups were to make sure we could get them all together. But one of the things that we've learned is some of the incidents that we've had, right, Mr. Scott, and at Parks and Rec activities after school or during Boys and Girls Club. So we just need to make sure that everyone's on the same page and they follow a set standard that we put in place. I believe we need to get the board to approve the revisions. Am I correct? Okay, so that we can move forward, because we want to have this ready for our administrative retreat, if that's acceptable.
Are we where do we actually find the full written policy? And are we to actually review it says school boards are required to annually review the written school crisis, and I haven't actually reviewed the policies other than hearing this presentation. Are we to actually have done that?
I didn't hear all of your question. I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering where we can find these actual policies, and are we required to review the entire, the Code of Virginia thing says we're required to annually review the response plans. So do we as a board need to review the actual written policy or just approve the work that you guys have done?
Mr. Scott can answer that,
Okay,
because
good.
we have made that available to the board, because the thing about this is we can't post this publicly, so we have provided it to you so that you can go ahead.
Right. We'll put it out there so that you make sure that it's the same manual that you saw last year. It's the same thing that we're presenting, except for the changes that Ms. Vestal mentioned today on it. So we can put those, make sure that those changes are posted in the same area that you reviewed the manual last year, if you'd like to take a look at those.
Yeah, we posted in board docs.
Right.
And we can't post it publicly because obviously it's our safety plan we want to share with the world.
Are there other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the changes to the crisis plan? So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the changes to the crisis plan. All in favor, please raise your hand. Well, Miss Amy, I guess you're next. Approval of Code of Student Conduct for second reading.
Yes, Madam Chairman. Today I just simply want to share with you that this is the second reading of the Student Code of Conduct. Mr. Chairman and fellow board members, there is a new addition for the second reading. On the K2, it's page 35. On the 312, it's page 51. And it's a brief statement about classroom observation procedures. And it says Henry County Public Schools has recently developed new procedures that all parents and guardians must follow in requesting to observe your child's classroom. The document entitled Classroom Observation Procedures is available for review online and it provides the Henry County website. And if you have questions regarding the new procedure, please contact your building commissioner. That's all that is listed in the new Code of Conduct, but I understand it will be going in a few other documents as well. But I did want to share with you that is a new addition since your first reading.
Any questions for Mrs. Scott about the changes to the policy? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve this on second reading with the change you mentioned. So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the changes and to approve this on second reading. All in favor, please raise your hand. Mrs. Lawson, approval of additional appropriation requests for dual enrollment and adjustments for ADM.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. In fiscal year 2014, Henry County Schools and Patrick Henry Community College entered into a cooperative agreement eliminating tuition costs for students taking the dual enrollment courses. Patrick Henry Community College does reimburse Henry County Schools for courses taught by our personnel when they're qualified to do so. The increase in appropriation is due to the number of students registering for the dual enrollment courses. For the fall semester, we received a reimbursement of $411,866.96. And based on the information for the spring semester, we will receive $508,423.23. An additional appropriation is requested in the amount of $715,300 for dual enrollment. Also looking at our revenue projections from the State Department of Education, Henry County Schools will receive an additional $188,336 of state funding for this current year. The reason for this additional funding is due that our enrollment dropped from September to March was not as high as projected. We actually increased 33.38 students. We recommend using these funds in the facilities area to assist with the remaining carry forward to complete alternate 1 of phase 3 of the Bassett High School renovations. It's recommended that the school board approve an additional appropriation of $903,636 and forward an appropriation request to the Board of Supervisors.
Are there questions or concerns?
Less money. They have
actually expended the money and it exceeded on both the revenue side and expenditure side what we budgeted. We budgeted $300,000 in revenue for the dual enrollment, which is why we're asking for the increase.
We do get reimbursed from Patrick Henry Community College, and the important piece to note is that if our teachers have the credential to teach the community college courses, then we get 100% reimbursed, but we do have some situations where teachers do not have their credential, that are having to teach the class, and then we don't get as much reimbursement for those. And what's challenging is trying to predict what our situation will be, because, for example, last year we had a couple teachers that had the credential that resigned or left the school division right before the year started. So we have situations where we can't predict what our situation will be. We're still working out this formula, but the good news is this is additional money that we need to have appropriated. And as you remember, we're always very cautious because we looked historically at our enrollment and how it's declined from September to March. And we're happy to say that it did not decline as much as we were anticipating. So that's where that additional amount comes from as well.
So what was the appropriation again?
The total appropriation is $903,636.
That includes both the money coming from Patrick Henry and the additional enrollment.
Yes, sir.
We're doing all we can to make sure we can get teachers that are certified, qualified to teach these classes.
Yes, sir. That's
Is
our.
that
We
based
can
on
get more
master's
revenue.
degree?
It's a master's degree. That's our priority.
And
And
so-
the unfortunate thing is we have some students, some teachers who aren't. But when we do hire them for those positions, we tell them they need to work toward that.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we use this money for phase of Bassett High School.
Is there a second?
Second.
Well, can I just jump in here? That's not what we're really to make the motion about, right? We're to make a motion about approving the additional appropriation, not what it's used for.
At this point,
So can I make a counter motion that we approve the additional appropriation?
you may.
I think that was the intent.
I understand, but if we make a motion saying what it's to be used for, then that's what the motion is.
So it has been moved and seconded that we approve the appropriation, extra appropriation. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Continue, Ms. Dawn.
During this time every year, we look at our revenues and expenditures to determine if funds are available to complete purchases placed on hold during the year. We place these purchases on hold to ensure the school system has funds available in the event an emergency arises, such as a major mechanical failure that could involve heating and cooling system or plumbing repairs. Based on this review of the various budget categories, a transfer from operation and maintenance to the facilities category would be beneficial in the current year's budget. These funds are needed to complete alternate 1 and 3 in phase 3 of the Bassett High School renovation project and for the roof replacement at the Center for Community Learning. It's recommended that the school board approve the categorical transfer appropriation of $282,800 and forward a transfer appropriation request to the Board of Supervisors.
And as you all know, with categorical funding, we do have to get approval to move funds between categories, and we have several capital improvement projects that we're trying to address here at the end of the year, and the roofing project as noted. And just as a reminder, the Bassett alternate 1 and 3, Mr. Scott, you want to make sure the board's aware of what we're talking about?
You remember when we bid out that phase, we bid out different alternates, and that way we would have a selection to get as much accomplished as possible with the funds that may be available. And so alternate 1 deals with the air conditioning in the gym to make sure that we're able to put the air conditioning system in the gym. Alternate 2 was the locker rooms. 3 was an additional warranty that typically when you do contract projects, you have a 1-year labor warranty on the system. And so we'd like to try to get through 2 years just so we can make sure we get through both seasons pretty efficiently to make sure we don't have any problems out of it. And then number 4, of course, was our energy dashboard that was out there as well.
But with this approval, we would be able to do the gym and the warranty.
That's correct.
This is, this is not additional money, it's simply transferring from one area to another, so we're not looking at additional. I'll offer a motion that we approve the budget categorical transfer appropriation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the categorical appropriation request to the Board of Supervisors. All in favor, please raise your hand. Mrs. Wells is going to update us on the special education annual plan and the breakthrough application preschool thing.
Yes, good morning. Every year at this time, I come before the board to request your approval for our annual plan, which outlines how we plan to budget our award for our 2 projects. The Individual with Disabilities Education Act Awards, which covers our special education programs, and then our second one that deals with our preschool. This year, we received a preliminary amount for our award. Typically, they tell us to develop our budget based on the previous year's award, but this year they actually gave us an amount. It still is preliminary, and we will get our final awarded amount somewhere around July, August. They'll send us the final. The awarded amount that we are developing our budget around is $970,633. This is a decrease of $20,394, which is kind of unusual because typically our awarded amount is based on a formula that includes our December 1 child count numbers, and our child count actually increased this year by 41. So I'm hoping that when we get a final award in July or August, that will be adjusted and we'll actually get an increase. But at this time, there's a $20,000 decrease. We are required to set aside a percentage of our awarded amount to provide services to parentally placed private school students. And this year, based on that awarded amount, we're required to set aside $15,539. Of course, the IDEA award is a federal award, so it is 100% reimbursable. What do we spend the money on? Well, of course, we support our Envision statement and our goals for Henry County schools, and that is to provide high-quality instruction and high-quality professionals. So with this amount, most of the awarded amount is spent on staffing. So we will pay 23 highly qualified teachers out of this amount, 12 highly qualified paraprofessionals, and then our summer school staff. Additionally, we provide extended school year services, medical examinations when they're required. We pay for our behavior specialist services from this account, our computerized IEP management system, our spots that we have at Mark Workshop, orientation mobility services that may be needed for our blind students, and professional development for our staff. Additionally, child find activities, because we want to make sure that the community is aware of our programs and services and how to contact us. Parental involvement activities through our parent advisory committee. Speech services, which are those services that we set aside monies for. Teaching materials, supplies, assistive technology devices, which include such things as FM systems for our deaf students or communication devices, that kind of thing. iPads, computers, FM systems. We certainly emphasize that we want our students to move on after school to do some post-secondary whether their education, furthering their education, or they're in some kind of independent employment or independent living. So things that we purchase with the money to support college and career readiness is supporting that iPad initiative. We also help support the Read 180 System 44 program,
Some of our students do community-based curriculum. We do transition planning with our students as well as self-determination to help them be aware of what their disability is, their strengths, and that their plan moving forward emphasizes those strengths. The second part of the award is our preschool monies. This year, $79,959 is projected for our award to fund our preschool program. That is an increase from last year of about $40. It too is 100% reimbursable. And similarly, we paid one early childhood special education teacher from this account. We have 6 preschool teachers that are special education teachers of the preschool program, but one is funded from this fund. We also pay for some of our summer programs, services, any preschool conferences for our teachers, trainings for our preschool teachers and the coordinator, supplies, materials, enrichment experiences to include some field trips, child find activities, parental involvement, and then any kind of equipment that our preschool program needs. This plan was presented to our Special Education Advisory Committee on April 27th, and it was approved. And I'm just requesting that it be approved by the school board today. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
If there are no questions or concerns for Mrs. Wells, we'll entertain a motion to approve the special education budget as presented. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Thank you. Additionally, we have to approve the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee.
We have that.
Okay.
We need to vote on this.
Okay. Thank you.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, now she's going to talk about the parent advisory.
Yes. Yes, regulations do require that every school division have a Special Education Parent Advisory Committee. Our committee meets quarterly, and we met, as you noted, April 27th. And the membership is remaining the same for the upcoming school year, and I just ask that you approve that membership.
So moved.
Second. And moved and seconded to approve the membership of the Special Education Advisory Committee. All in favor, please raise your hand.
I have a question. I noticed that some names and positions are redacted. Is that a requirement by state or some other agency or an individual requirement?
I think it's required that we not put their personal information, make it public.
Per their request, or is that a state requirement?
Per their request. Our chairperson's information is available on the website, though, in the Henry County website under special education, and we provide a brochure to all of our parents with her contact information so that if parents have questions or they want to get more information, her contact is available.
I think Mr. Milner makes a good point, though. I mean, presumably these are parents that represent other parents. And so it seems like it would be nice for other parents to be able to know how to contact people who represent their interests to the Parent Advisory Committee.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what you're saying is they can always contact the chairperson.
Right.
That's what I was.
Are there other questions or concerns from Ms. Wells this morning? Yeah, we can vote. All in favor of approving the Parent Advisory Committee, please raise your hand. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the 2015-2016 preschool initiative application.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the board. Our 4-year-olds participate in the Virginia Preschool Initiative Program, which is sometimes called the VPI program. This program incorporates the 4-year-olds that are not in the program that Ms. Wells talked about in the special ed preschool program. Each year, the state allocates a number of student slots for us, and then they provide
provide funding to support the slots that they've allocated to us. So every year we then screen students, and we take the most at-risk students and place them in our program to help ensure that those students will be on a level playing field when they enter kindergarten. I wanted to make the board aware that next year our students will be screened according to the things that we've always done in the past, and we will start our school year for the 15-16 school year using those same criteria. However, the General Assembly did pass legislation this year that will change the criteria for the 16-17 school year. And in that year, students will only be allowed to be in the BPI program if they have met one of two criteria. And the two criteria are that they either live in poverty or one of their parents did not graduate from high school. I wanted to share that with the board to let you know that that could affect our preschool enrollment in the years in the future. For example, currently we have 17 classes, preschool classes, 1 teacher, 1 aide, and 16 students in each preschool classroom for a total of 272 students in our preschool program. And out of that number, 195 of them would qualify under the new criteria, which means that 72% of the students that are currently in the DPI program would qualify and be allowed to stay in the program. And I went back a year to last year's numbers to see, and we had the same number, 272 preschoolers in that year, which 84% of them would have qualified under the new criteria. So we would have been able to keep 228 of those students in the BPI program. And with that being said, we know that we need to get out and to start our screening process much earlier. We usually start advertising the preschool applications in January and start our screening early in February and March to try to fill all the spots in our preschool classes. So next year we will be starting sooner. We will start advertising, and the screening process will be much different, less cumbersome, because they will have to meet one of those two criteria for the following year. But I wanted to make you aware of that because of the change, because sometimes I know you hear that people aren't allowed into the preschool program, and I want you to know they would have to meet that criteria unless the General Assembly makes a change in that legislation. Therefore, it is recommended that the school board approve the 2015 Virginia Preschool Initiative application, where we would receive an estimated amount of $1,398,631 from the state, and then we would be required to match an estimated $443,370. Do you have any questions about preschool?
I was at a conference earlier last year, and the governor spoke that he was interested in increasing the number of preschool, but that legislation apparently restricts it more.
Right. The legislation actually is to ensure that we are selecting our most at-risk students. And I know, I've heard many times the question asked, how many students do we serve in preschool and how many, like maybe in kindergarten? Mm-hmm. So just so you're aware of the difference, right now we have 272 preschoolers and we have 573 kindergartners. So where we have 17 classes now, if we were at full capacity, we would need 18 more preschool classes to serve all the students on estimating numbers that we had the same amount every year. So double what we have in preschool to serve all the students that would be going into kindergarten to have full preschool.
Do we feel that we are reaching the number that we should in this, or?
I know I've been part of the presentations for the preschool, and as far as I would love to see us be able to have more students in preschool, and I do know that we, Ms. Foltz specifically, spends lots of time trying. We've been to different areas in the community, advertised in many of the stores, trying to reach. We actually advertise in the schools. We send flyers home with all of our elementary students and trying to hopefully reach siblings. So we'll take any suggestions, because you're right, we do worry that sometimes we miss our neediest students.
Do we include private organizations that have preschool? Is this any way connected with ours? I know, for example, there's one in my church.
Yeah,
operated by Piedmont Community Service, I assume. Is that any way connected with us, or?
We actually have a committee that we sit down and we talk to all the agencies. We talk to several daycares, Smart Beginnings. We work with the health department. We have a memorandum of understanding with Head Start. We work with all of those entities to ensure that the word is getting out and that we are using best practices with our 4-year-olds, and that hopefully people who don't get in, that are in those other areas, we can let kindergarten.
Mr. Miller, I'm the chair of the Smart Beginnings Board, and Denise Foltz serves on that board with me, and the initiative right now is the STAR initiative, where they're working on providing ratings to all of our child care providers in our community. So that's been on hold for a little while because they're still finalizing the guidelines there, but many of our child care providers are very interested in earning that STAR rating so that we're all at a certain level of expectations for students.
Okay, let's say, for example, being realistic, my great-grandchild was going to be in one of these programs, and it was not a school program, outside program. Would that information be entered on my child's Henry County form?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason I wanted Mrs. Strayer to share that with you is the changes she described were supposed to go into place this year. And there was an outcry from educators and legislators because of the concern of the limited number of students who would qualify, and there were questions about how do you determine if a child is financially in need and those kinds of things. So a lot of those guidelines did not come out, but the other thing that came out that was huge for us is they don't even mention ELL students or English language learners in the criteria. We have a number of students who would benefit from an early childhood experience, and they're not even mentioned in the changes. So for that reason, the start of this has been delayed for a year, but I really wanted her to make the board aware of that because that may be one of our legislative priorities that we want to talk about as we move into this next season, that some changes need to happen before this is implemented the following year. So we have 1 year reprieve, but we need to make sure that our voices are heard before this goes into effect in fall of 2016.
Are there other questions for Ms. Strayer? If not, is there a motion to approve this Virginia Preschool Initiative application?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the application. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Are you up at it? Approval of year 3 support for Warrior Tech.
This is the third year for Warrior Tech, and therefore I'm here again to ask approval for the support for Warrior Tech from the New Tech Network. If you remember earlier this year, you saw presentations from the Warrior Tech students, and that support that we are asking for would pay for funding for the ECHO system, which parents have access to as well as students, and teachers have access to that system to look for lessons that are shared within the New Tech Network and to also share their lessons to be vetted. It also pays for training for our teachers, professional development that happens during the year as well as in the summer. And the support also pays for a coach that actually visits Magna Vista and visits the classrooms and watches our teachers as they work on their project-based learning. So it is recommended that the school board approve the year 3 support for Warrior Tech Academy. The funding source would be $101,000 from the Harvest Grant, if that grant is approved, the contingency on that grant being approved this summer, and $15,400 from the FY16 budget purchase services. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. I understand that another school division is starting a Warrior Tech program. So what I'm thinking in my little mind is that we perhaps need a record of success of these students that go through Warrior Tech so that we will have that information to present to other jurisdictions that may want to start one. Have we ever considered some kind of program to monitor this success?
Actually, yes, sir, and we actually have one of our teachers at Warrior Tech who has been certified, so therefore she can train others and others can come into our Warrior Tech site to see and at the demonstration sites. And we are actually keeping the data, Ms. Newman has been keeping data, as well as at Warrior Tech, they are keeping up with the success stories so that we can share that.
Well, it's important there too, because I'm often asked the question, how are they doing on the SOL test? And that's when we have visitors who come, and initially they're on par with the other students Warrior Tech is made up of a great, representation of the school community. And I'm really proud of the demographics of the Warrior Tech program. But the other way we need to change the conversation is what do we value when we're looking at our students and their success. So that's why we've been assessing our students on critical thinking, communication, problem solving. You've heard about agency, self-direction, and regulation, and those kinds of things. We've been fortunate to give our students the College Work Readiness Assessment through a grant opportunity, and that was a free assessment that was provided to us. And then, of course, we don't know if that will continue, but we're thinking that's going to be a nice measure to show how our students are doing in other areas. But we're constantly talking about what we want in a high school graduate. And when you talk to groups of people, and I'm on the assessment committee, the governor's committee, and that's the question. What do we want our graduates, what skills do we want our graduates to possess? And they're not saying pass the SOL test. That's not what they're saying. They're saying we want them to be creative thinkers, we want critical thinkers, we want problem solvers, and that's what we're assessing in Warrior Tech. And I'm excited that this other school division, actually, Mrs. Maddox and I are going to visit the boards for these two school divisions that are looking at starting a new tech program. And so we're excited that maybe there'll be the second one, the second new tech in Virginia. But they've visited Warrior Tech probably 3 or 4 times, and they rave about the great things that they're seeing there. So our challenge is how do we spread this in Henry County, and we'll continue to talk about Bassett in the future. But the nice thing about this is we have people who are trained that can do the professional development for other schools. So we're going to save significantly on this cost that we see here in the future.
Following up on Mr. Miller's question about evaluating success, I hope that we either have or will implement some type of vehicle for parents of children who are in that program to comment their viewpoint, because I've had so many parents tell me that it's the best thing that ever happened to their particular students. Just very, very positive about it.
That's always good to hear. We will.
I know we've talked about this before, but you mentioned having the program at Bassett. What's some of the thought processes in terms of, because obviously we think it's a very positive thing at Magna Vista, and what are some of the things that are going into the decision or delay? I realize there's physical plant things that would have to happen, but ultimately Warrior Tech's a learning style or a teaching style, and obviously having trained professionals to administer it. I guess what are the hang-ups, or what's our thinking about why we don't immediately do it at Bassett?
Sure.
We see it as such a positive thing.
Sure, I'll speak to that. When we started at Warrior Tech and we implemented 1 year at a time, I know that once we got rolling with that program, several school board members wanted to see how well it worked, and they wanted a chance to observe the program before immediately moving into Bassett High School. The second part to that is we had a new principal that came into Bassett High School, and right away I told him, I want you to look at this model, and we invited Mr. Gibbs and some of his teachers to go visit Warrior Tech and a couple other new tech programs in North Carolina, because really what you want to do is you want to get that buy-in from the staff and from the leadership. And when they visited some of these programs, they had a lot of questions. They liked a lot of things that they saw, but they maybe wanted to develop something a little bit different at Bassett High School. So then we went down the road of a technology academy, is where we started focusing, where we just offer technology courses and certifications. And really an academy program is just an emphasis in a certain area. The classes are still taught relatively the same as any other class. It's just the course offerings are different. And then they visited a couple technology academies, one down in Virginia Beach that I was involved in previously and in other places. And when they came back, they said, we really want to see courses integrated and project-based learning, and that wasn't what they saw in technology academies. So now we're back to looking at a new tech program, but with a technology focus. So, I mean, I certainly could have said, guess what, Bassett High School, you're implementing new tech next year. You may have had mixed results and limited buy-in, but really the difference is you want the staff and the leadership to get excited about this, because if not, then it won't be successful. And that's what happened at Magna Vista when we visited some sites. They came back and said, we've got to do this tomorrow. And I will tell you that we didn't even know how we were going to pay for it. Some of you that went with me on some of these trips, we weren't sure we could make it happen, but the teachers said, we've got to make it happen. So it's taken a little bit longer to decide where we're going at Bassett High School, but to date it looks like we're moving towards a new tech program with a technology focus. But you've also mentioned the other thing we need to think about is where. And there was even a point in time where we were thinking, because Bassett has a larger population, should we change their media center, or should we look at a separate location? So we even started investigating other sites. So there's been a lot. I'm probably giving you the whole long story, but there's been a lot of things that we've looked at. But now we're planning for fall of 2016 is really what we're gearing up for. That's where I am. Of course, board members, you may feel differently and want to push it back even further, but we also don't want to negatively impact other great programs happening at Bassett High School, like the band, for example. Just like at Warrior Tech, we did not want to negatively impact the horticulture program. So there are lots of things that you need to consider.
I anticipate, one of the questions from the community will be one we get with the horticulture and cosmetology and Warrior Tech is the discrepancy between the schools. Has any more thought gone into how we'll respond to that? And I know we've expressed as a board an interest in providing the same opportunities regardless of which high school you're zoned to go to, and yet this would be a program that's different at Bassett, much like there's a program that's different at Magna Vista. And again, just anticipating that question from the community, what's our response to be?
Well, and part of that too is, the programs will probably be very similar because Warrior Tech is a STEM program with a technology focused, science, engineering, and math. More than likely the programs will be very similar, which will provide equity there. Eventually I see that we'll probably provide some technology certifications at Warrior Tech as well. But I have the same concern. I'd like to have more equity across the different schools. The other issue you mentioned, something that's a little longer to address. Frankly, we're looking at the new school building helping us. If we continue to move forward on that new elementary school, then we can look at using CCL as a career and technical center, or maybe we can offer the career and technical courses to all students. And we need to get there because we have real equity issues. My student advisory group, they always tell me they want to take certain courses that they can only take at their high school. And there was a time when we shuttled the students back and forth, but as those programs became more popular, they filled the seats with the home high school, and then you were in a situation where you had to say, I'm sorry, you can't participate because we have to save some slots for the other school. So we need to come up with a better option, and that's why we're talking about equity, but I'm glad to hear you mention that because that's one of those things that keeps us up at night too.
I echo Dr. Steinberg's concern, and I, for one, wish that we could look forward to planning so that regardless of where a child lives in the county, they'll be able to take whatever course they want to take. And if it's not available at their school, they'll be able to go to wherever to get it. Having grown up in the separate but equal school system, I know what it's like. And I would like everybody to be afforded the same opportunity. And I think that, I know that's not something we can do overnight, but I wish that we would plan towards that.
Yes, sir, we are. We actually, as a part of our strategic plan, we're planning 3 to 5 years out. And just to give you another example, at our middle schools, course, now we have to tackle. The biggest ones I hear about are horticulture at Magna Vista, HVAC at Bassett, and cosmetology. Some of those programs are the ones we hear about the most. And the unfortunate thing is the students have just, come to accept that, which we don't accept, that they can't take all of the available courses. So that's why I feel the answer is that we need a career and technical center where we can run buses throughout the day and students can participate in those programs. So
I support that idea 100%.
great.
Are there other questions?
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Approval of instructional consultants for the coming school year.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we've used instructional coaches in the past. They provide training, mentoring, and coaching on best practices in our classroom. They provide training for our principals as well as our teachers. And next year we plan to have the consultants work with our lead teachers as well as our instructional coaches that will be in our elementary school. So it is recommended that the school board approve instructional consultants for the 2015-16 school year and authorize the administration to exercise subsequent renewals in accordance with the terms of the contract under RFP 14-10013-A144. The fiscal impact of that would be $160,000. That would come from the FY16 budget, the Harvest Grant, and that is also contingent on the Harvest Grant being approved this summer. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. Are you going to pull teachers out like we've been doing in the past?
No, ma'am.
Even the children are complaining.
Yes, no, ma'am. Our plan is that our instructional coaches will not actually have a set of students that they won't be a teacher, they will be a coach that's in the building that will work with all of the teachers. So they'll be able to monitor what's happening in the classroom and be there to support the teacher, but then they will also be able to leave the school and come to professional development, and they will hear firsthand from the coaches, and then they'll be able to go back to the buildings and during teachers' planning periods, or while the teachers are working with students, be able to work one-on-one with them, model what they've seen for the teacher, and show it that way the teacher does not have to leave the classroom. Additionally, these coaches, these consultants, they will go into our buildings to see what is happening and do the same thing for our teachers, model best practices, point out to administrators what they see as best practices and where they see things that we could improve upon. So our goal is to not pull teachers if at all possible. We know sometimes that does have to happen, but our goal is to not pull them as frequently.
Are these coaches at all levels?
They are, yeah. Well, the instructional coaches that we're planning to pay from the Title I grant can only be in the elementary schools. The coaches, these consultants, would be at all levels.
How long have we been doing this? How many years?
We've been using consultants as long as we've had the DI initiative, so probably 12 years. But what we're changing this year, so we were having these DI consultants go into each elementary building, middle and high, but then they didn't really work in middle and high, so they kind of stopped going to middle and high. So this year, the DI coaches, consultants will not go into the elementary schools like they have in the past. They will be more so working with those teacher leaders on best practices and helping them. So it's a little bit different than it has been in the past.
I know we've gotten feedback, we've kind of referred to it already, from students and teachers about this. Do we have some way of measuring this? Is this helping us? Is it, especially now with us using Title I funds for, at least in the elementary school, we're going to be having our own coaches.
And
how are they going to work together? Is this going to be a collaborative thing? And again, does it work? It's not a huge fiscal impact, but is it helping?
I will say that what we have done in every collaboration that we've done this year, we've had a survey where we've told the teachers to please be very, very honest with us, and we've gotten lots of feedback from our staff in saying that particularly they really want these two consultants that we pay to come in and work with them because they see great improvement in using those two consultants. And there are some that we've gotten feedback on that they would prefer, to not have any more. Maybe they've learned enough from them. But there are two specific
specifically that we refer to in every survey that they beg for, and they say, yes, we'll be willing to leave class to see that person. So that's what we're going to be mindful of, is what teachers need and measuring success based on implementing the strategies. So we are, Ms. Durham, myself, and the instructional team attending all of the professional developments with these consultants to make sure that they are worthy, because we do value that we don't want to pull teachers out nor waste their time during the day if it's not something that's improving areas that we need.
So we do have a say in which consultants?
Yes, sir. According to the RFP, the way it's written, we have a say in who we pick and when we use them.
Dr. Stambaugh, just to add to that, when you're using several different consultants, then you get variations on a theme. So by limiting the consultants that we're using and using more of a train-the-trainer model, where we're all hearing the same message, we're all setting the same expectation, this is really a different model than the one that we've used in the past. So we're really starting a new baseline this year, but we feel like we need to focus more on sending the same message to everyone and making sure that we have the same expectations for all schools, and these two particular folks will help us do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I believe that Mrs. Strader's recommendation is to approve the
$160,000 estimated from the Harvest Fund. It contingent on the Harvest grant being approved this summer.
which is about $15,000 for the county over the harvest.
That grant, I'll bring that next month, and it'll probably be about $400.
Oh,
I move that we approve the instructional consultants for 2015-16.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Approval to purchase technical support for reading intervention program for the coming school year.
Yes. We've been using Read 180 now for 5 years, and we've used that in all of our schools, elementary, middle, and high. As Ms. Wells referenced, we use Read 180 and System 44, and once we purchase the license, we have those licenses for a lifetime. However, each year we do need to renew our technical support. It is recommended that the school board approve the purchase of the technical support for the Scholastic for Read 180 intervention program for all of our schools for the 2016 school year. The impact of that would be an estimated $28,762.50. Do you have any questions?
So moved.
Second. It has been moved and seconded. Are there questions or discussions? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. Approval of acquisition of the integrated assessment program.
Yes, ma'am. On Track is an integrated assessment program that reports and provides instant feedback to teachers, principals, and central office staff. This is an opportunity for us to develop district-wide benchmark assessments and to also be able to disaggregate data on subgroups, individual classes, grade levels, and schools. The program will help us in making data-driven decisions and in helping us with our school improvement plans. The program also has a component that's unique, a longitudinal data system that will allow all the teachers to have a dashboard where they can see assessment scores from all types of assessments ranging from SAT to PAL scores, as well as the tests that are developed from this system On Track. Sometimes you've heard this system referred to as interactive achievement. Several years ago we did use interactive achievement. However, due to the fact that they had not made significant changes to the program, we stopped using it. And at several meetings this year, numerous teachers approached Dr. Cotton and myself at teacher leader meetings, teacher advisory meetings, collaboration meetings to say, please bring back interactive achievement. And so, we looked at the program, and they had promised years ago they would make corrections and improvements, which did not get made several years ago. Those improvements have been made. They have hired people that are helping add rigor to the questions in the question bank. They have added the technology-enhanced questions to allow students to manipulate that mirrors the SOL assessment that students
And they've also added the longitudinal system, the dashboard, so to say, that teachers, instead of having to go to a cumulative file and look to see what a student scored on a PALS assessment or SAT or a COGAT, which is a gifted screener, that they would have all that access at their fingertips and be able to see it right in front of them. So it is recommended that the school board approve the implementation of the Integrated Assessment Program for Interactive Achievement under the RFP 13-0894, which would be piggybacking onto Chesterfield County Schools for either a 1 or a 3-year period based on the available funds at the end of the year. Therefore, the impact for a 1-year contract would be $100,022.50, and for a 3-year contract it would be $288,063.75. Do you have any questions about the On-Track Interactive Achievement Program?
Madam Chair, I'll just add that this is a big deal for us in our progression toward using data to drive instruction. Currently, our teachers are having to use paper, scoring by hand, or going through student queue folders to pull data from previous years. They're having to go to several different applications to monitor student progress. The big thing here is the dashboard that puts it all in one place so they can see all their students, how they've performed for the last several years on many different assessments. Basically what we tell teachers is it's the student cumulative folder online so that you can just pull that up and monitor student progress. You can do it by hand. It's a lot of hard work to do it by hand. I was in a math teacher's classroom recently, and she showed me her process, her binder, about that thick, of all the data she pulled together on her math students, and it's just incredible how much time she's had to spend to differentiate for her students. So for us, this is a big step to move in this direction, and we had a state-supported dashboard that only gave us statewide test results, and that's been discontinued. We don't even have that now. So our teachers are having to go through all kinds of paper. So we're hoping that this will help streamline the hard work that teachers do with analyzing data and planning for instruction.
I must say, I've heard the teachers loud and clear on what Dr. Cotton is saying, so this will cut down on the teachers' paperwork and make their life a whole lot easier. Move we approve, Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, please raise your hand. Approval to renew the Edivate Professional Development Program.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and School Board. Edivate is an online professional development program that hosts the world's largest professional learning community. Our school division has used this program for the past 3 years, and currently all of our evaluations for principals and teachers are hosted by the program. So I'm recommending that the school board approve a 3-year renewal license of the PD 360 Edivate Professional Development Program at a cost of $220,845, depending on availability of year-end funding.
Teachers receive some renewal credit doing professional development through this kind of program.
Yes, sir, they do. And actually, our curriculum department, one day when they were off, they had a development program that all teachers had to participate in, so they received a lot of credit for that.
And is this also the program that if a principal receives that a teacher's having a problem in a specific area, that he can select things from there for them to
Yes, ma'am.
view, to
Yes.
help them with their...
They can actually select the videos online for them to view.
I move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Edivate program. All in favor?
As you know, our teachers write a grant for their interactive boards. So this year we put out an RFP for
some new vendors, and we are requesting the purchase of 40 interactive boards to replace the ones that we have and to satisfy some of the new grants. So I'm recommending that we spend $154,100 pending availability of year-end funding on purchasing some new boards and panels.
Move we approve to purchase 40 interactive boards and panels.
Second.
Other questions? I think most of you young teachers that are coming to us have been trained on these, and they're very anxious to get them in their classroom.
They're very anxious, yes.
All in favor of the motion? Proceed, Janet.
Approval of purchase for computers for elementary schools. Most of our elementary laptops that we use for instruction and for our online testing are very old and not upgradable. So I'm requesting at least one cart per testing grade per elementary school that test from the Dell Computer Company at a price of $149,277.60, and it also is based on availability of year-end funding.
Make a motion that we approve the purchase of computers for our elementary schools.
Second. Are these, you said carts, or it's just trying to do some rough math, and not to be a curmudgeon, but this is $500 some per unit? Is that just for the computer?
Yes.
Are we getting a good price?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Actually, we did an RFP, and that's in my next board packet, so we are getting the best price.
I mean, I know computers have come way down, and I don't think it depends on what we're getting, I guess, but I certainly trust your assessment of
Well,
getting a good deal on a great computer, but.
The first computer that we purchased was $1,300. Now the ones we're getting are between $500 and $700. So, cheap's not always best. So the ones that we're getting do have certain criteria that we have.
In the lifespan of these, we anticipate to be.
Technology changes every 6 months. We try to make them last 4 years. The reason we have to get rid of the elementary ones, of course, are the XP, because Microsoft no longer supports that. So Pearson no longer supports it either. We cannot test on any XP machines beginning in September.
Thank you. I move we approve to purchase computers for elementary, or just on everything. A second. I'll vote for it.
All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Lease purchase.
Our lease currently it expires this year, so we put out an RFP and had 3 vendors that we interviewed and reviewed and worked over for days and days and days. So we are recommending, based on a committee and based on senior leadership, we are recommending that for high school carts and teachers, we continue with the Dell equipment, and for middle school carts and teachers, we're asking for the Apple lease equipment based on the 95% of middle school teachers requested these because they have the iPads. So I'm requesting that we approve the RFP and award the lease for another 4 years.
And Madam Chair, if I can just add to that, we've had lots of conversations about this and even talked to student advisory about this as well. We really need to have a sustainability plan when we're looking at technology. And when you're looking at leasing, which we're doing here, we actually had a lower rate for the lease. So that created some opportunities for us to build in some sustainability plans moving forward. So what I've asked Janet to do, which she's done, is develop a 4 or 5-year plan over the next several years to make sure that we can sustain our technology devices. The worst thing you can do is just hope and pray that you have the funding each year to replace your technology. So we're trying to build in the sustainability plan, and that's what leasing is helping us do. But when you lease, you have to have that amount in your budget every year moving forward, or you're not going to be able to replace the technology or keep the technology. So what she's done in her plan is she has mapped out the next several years, and we've determined that without increasing any of our operating costs, we can continue to support our technology initiatives. And jobs, because those are ongoing expenses. So I thought that was smart. But the problem was, when you do that, you say, oh, in 4 years I'll worry about how to replace it. So we're trying to make sure that we're worrying about 4 years from now, so that we have, because we didn't have a sustainability plan, really. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Every time when Mrs. Copenhagen and I talk, she says, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? How are we going to sustain the technology? The worst thing you can do is put it in their hands and say, oh, sorry, this year we didn't have a good year. We can't afford to replace the technology. And then we have students using 4-year-old iPads and hoping for the best. So I just wanted to point that out to you, that we've been working on that, and that's what you're seeing reflected in this recommendation.
I'm reading a statement here that says back in 2007, the RFP was awarded to Dell Computer for implementation of division-wide hardware purchase replacement cycle. Contract expired, teachers will be given option to purchase new assigned laptops. Computers not purchased will be returned to Dell. What are we doing with the rest of our obsolete computer equipment? Are we still storing it at a site which I won't mention?
I'm glad you asked that, because we are getting ready. The Dell laptops that we're taking out of the elementary schools, you know, last year we asked for your approval to sell them on govdeals.com. So that's what we will be doing this year also. And it just brings back a little bit of money to us, but we're allowed to use that. I used what we sold the iPads for last year to buy smart boards. So it just brings money back into technology that we can use for other things. And the ones, of course, that are broken, we still salvage.
Are there other questions? Mrs. Copenhagen? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of laptop computers. No. For the high schools and the middle schools. All in favor, please raise your hand. And now we talk about Warrior Tech.
As we're moving forward in Warrior Tech, we still want to continue with our one-to-one. So we're requesting approval to purchase one-to-one laptops. And last year I asked for $100,000. This year it's going down to $79,000. So you're right, the price of laptops is going down. I will tell you that yesterday, Dr. Cotton and I presented at a CTO superintendent's clinic in Williamsburg. I was there. He was on the screen. But we presented our digital initiatives, one being Warrior Tech. When I finished and talked to the superintendents there, they commented on our forward-thinking school board and what a joy it must have to work with a school board like we have. So I wanted to commend you on that. Even the Department of Education said we've got to go to Henry County because that school board has it right. So I wanted to applaud you for your forward thinking and just continuing on with our digital initiatives. So I am recommending that the school board purchase 100 11-inch MacBook Airs from Alpha Computer Company, which is sole source, for a cost of $79,600, pending availability of year-end funding.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded to approve the upgrading of computers for the area.
Go on those nice comments we have to vote.
It's called buttering now. All in favor, please raise your hand.
10-year vehicle replacement plan. We have two maintenance service trucks that are next in line for this replacement. One's a 1998 Chevrolet and the other one is a Dodge. And both of these have over 130,000 miles on them, and you can see the wear and tear of these vehicles. So we talked with Chesterfield County actually has a contract with Colonial Ford Truck Sales in Richmond, where we're able to purchase these trucks. And by going this route versus the state contract, we would save roughly about $1,000 per truck by purchasing with this, just because the service bid comes with the truck. So it's recommended that we would award the contract to Colonial Ford Truck Sales in Richmond to purchase two of these trucks in the amount of $28,643.96 each, pending availability of funds, which would come out of our current FY15 operation and maintenance, if the funds are available for these vehicles.
10 years from 1998 to 2015?
No. It's our 10-year replacement plan. It's on our 10-year replacement plan.
Now, the local dealers just can't compete with those prices.
Well, we have a couple of options on that. We can purchase through a state contract, which the state does the bidding piece of it for us. But we found that we could save money by going this route. Now, we have not sent out a bid locally just due to the time and the resources that we would save by going through a bid. There's still no guarantee that our local contractors would, or our local vendors would be able to compete with that as well.
These are two-wheel drives?
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Scott? Not, is there a motion to approve the purchase of the replacement vehicles for maintenance pending availability of money at the end of the year? So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the replacement. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Thank you.
And now it's the superintendent's report, starting, I guess, with his video show.
We have some highlights to share, and I want to thank the board for all of the items in this particular meeting, because you heard us say several times pending availability of funds. As we're looking at year end, we're trying to take care of our one-time expenditures that are priorities for us as we move into next year. But I do have some great news to share on the superintendent's highlight report for the month of May. Start off with Math Night at Food Line. Campbellport Elementary and the Bassett Forks Food Line recently hosted a math night for students and their families. The students were given real-world problems to solve using products found in the store. Food Line also gave away gift cards and provided refreshments to families and teachers. Goodwill Partners. Students at Drew Mason Elementary and local Goodwill staff teamed up to create craft projects using items that were donated to Goodwill. Students learned about the important role of the Goodwill store in our community and gained ideas on how to reuse and repurpose items in their homes. Family fun and information. Families were treated to an evening of fun recently at the family reading night at G.W. Carver Elementary. Students participated in a book swap where they exchanged their Japanese books for books that were new to them. Other activities included bingo for books and cornhole tournament, which I'm sure was fun. Parents of 3rd and 4th graders were invited to attend an SOL informational meeting. Parents of 5th grade students met with the assistant principals from FC and Laurel Park Middle Schools to receive information that would help with the transition to 6th grade. STEM Fair winners. Liz Motley congratulated 2 Mount Olivet STEM Fair winners for their innovation recently. The students made a boat out of popsicle sticks, foam, and tape. The students were successful in building a boat that bore the greatest amount of weight and remained above water. Service learning. Rich Acres Elementary students recently completed an SCA service project during which they collected drink tabs to help raise funds for the Ronald McDonald House charities. SCA students set a goal of 5 gallons per grade and helped to track progress using a visual display in the hallway. Over a period of 8 weeks, the school collected over 25 gallons of tabs. Surprise supplies. Students in Mrs. Ashworth's class at Sandville Elementary recently enjoyed painting birdhouses Mrs. Ashworth obtained at the warehouse giveaway of donated craft supplies. Henry County Public Schools is very grateful to eBay Enterprises for donating 100 pallets of items that teachers were able to secure for use in their classrooms. And I don't know if you've heard about that, but we've had economics fair. They worked for 3 weeks to earn Stanleytown Elementary bucks to spend at the fair to buy goods and services from their classmates. Each student was required to choose a business, either selling goods or doing a service. Working together with their parents, they created signs, procured the goods to be sold, set prices, and then sent in all supplies for the business to operate. Each class rotated to either buy or sell, and when earned money ran out, there was no credit extended. That's a good lesson for all of us. Children learned that good choices and good work habits meant more money to spend or save, a lesson that will serve them well in years to come. Lego Challenge 2015. The Laurel Park Robotics team participated in the Lego Challenge at the 2015 Henry County STEM Fair. 12 teams of 2 students were presented with 2 challenges and were required to build a program and modify their robots to devise the best solution to each challenge. The winning 2-person team was Adrian Hilton and Cole Pruitt. Book party. Mrs. Martin, librarian at Bassett High School, recently hosted a party to celebrate new books arriving at the library. The students were invited to explore the new selections and share them with peers during an informal discussion of literature. Accreditation inspection. Magna Vista's JROTC department recently underwent its first accreditation inspection. The battalion received maximum points for instructor portfolios, staff briefings, and in-ranks inspection. Congratulations, STAR staff members. 2 of our 3rd quarter Superintendent Starfish Award winners are Elmer Martin and Rebecca Allen. They were nominated by colleagues who spoke of how dedicated each is to doing everything possible to enhance the school experience for the students and staff of Henry County Public Schools. I had the pleasure of surprising each of them on the job in April to thank them for all they do to make our schools great. And also well-deserved recognition, I had the pleasure of surprising Chelsea Rogers during some teacher training. She was participating in that day. And Alex Clifton, who's here today, with Starfish Awards in April. They were nominated by colleagues who spoke of how they constantly go above and beyond to ensure that students, staff, and parents have everything they need for a successful school experience. So we'd like to give congratulations to those folks. Madam Chair and school board members, this does complete my updates for this month, and we have other items in my reports that I'd be glad to answer any questions about if board members would like to ask any questions about those items.
If there are no questions, we move to the next item, which is matters from the board. Are there items you would like to present this morning from the board?
I guess we got some graduations coming up.
We do.
22nd and the 23rd, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That's about 2 weeks away, a little over 2 weeks away. Are we getting ready? Are we ready, Dr. Hunt?
We're always ready. It's creeping up on us fast, but we're ready.
I'd like to commend staff at Taylor Bronzeville Middle School. I think they made a good choice in canceling the field trip they had at that specific period of time, some good forethought there, making that decision. I know it's always tough when you promise kids they're going somewhere and you have to tell them they're not, but it was a good decision.
Principal there, Mr. Campbell, did a great job working with the staff and making a good decision. You're right, it's not always a popular one, but I reminded him safety first, which was definitely where he was. And he made that decision, and I told him I supported 100%. So that was a good decision.
If there are no other matters from the board, we will ask that you look over the list of dates that have been presented to you of events that are happening. We don't have as many budget meetings this time. There are a lot of things going on at the end of the year, so we'd like you to look over those and attend as many as you can. We'll remind you of the Blue Ridge Spring Network Forum, which is going to be at the new college, and I believe that we and Martinsville will be hosting that. So that would be interesting. And the Apple visit, the Apple site visit, both happening on May 12th. Soon. And then, of course, we have the law conference on June 5th, and the conference on education on July 20th and 21st. So if you plan to attend any of these, please let Linda know so she can make reservations to be there.
And Madam Chair, we are presenting at the conference on education. We're presenting Warrior Tech and social media, engaging our community, I think is the other one. The other thing I wanted to mention is in the meetings and events, the honor grad recognition is coming up, and we generally offer board members the opportunity to speak if you'd like to share some words. If you attend that, you get the chance to speak to the honor graduates if you'd like to do that. And I'd just like to encourage you all to make an attempt to attend both graduations because it's so important for our students to see you there at the graduation ceremonies. I know that we always hold our breath for the Friday evening with the weather, but it would be great for all of you to be there if you can for those graduations.
In graduations, I noticed in years past, the schools were very cooperative in working with us. Last year was a little, I understand we had 2 new principals, but I'd like to know well in advance what they have planned so I can kind of do what I'm supposed to do.
And we'll, Mrs. Hatchett can follow up with the high schools to make sure because we had an interesting situation where one school sent out invitations and another one sent out an email, and we just need to be consistent so that you all know what's expected. So we'll make sure that we get some clear communication to you. And of course, I was no help because I couldn't walk last year. I didn't want to repeat that.
At this time, we're going to move into a closed session to discuss Virginia Law 2.2-3711A and A for appointments and separations of personnel, and also Section A2, student matters. The Code of Virginia legal matters, and also need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of going into closed session, please raise your hand. I'll entertain a motion to return to regular session.
So moved. Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. Mrs. Oakley, would you do the certification?
Whereas the School Board of Henry County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712.d of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of Henry County hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered. Reverend Alker?
Yes.
Dr. Duvall?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan? Ms. Maddox?
Yes.
Mr. Milner?
Yes.
Dr. Stambaugh?
Yes.
And Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
We do have 3 motions coming out of closed session. Mr. Miller?
Offer motion that the personnel report plus addendum be approved as presented. Second.
It's been moved and approve the personnel report and the personnel report addendum as presented. All in favor, please raise your hand. Mr. Zaire?
Madam Chairman, in student case number 17RE-15, I move that the student be released from compulsory attendance under 22.1-25-4B.1 of the Code of Virginia based on the affidavit or declaration submitted to the school board.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the religious exemption case. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Mr. Oliver?
I move in student case number 13EXP-15 that the student be expelled from the Henry County Schools for 365 days without access to alternative services.
All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Thank you. If there's no other business to come before the board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move for adjournment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor,